Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Fuller. Mr. Cole.
Here.
Mr. Mott. Ms. Paulson.
Present.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
4 years, 2 absent, sir.
Okay, everybody please rise for the pledge if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
We do not.
Okay. Before you have the meeting minutes for April 20th, 2023. Please review them at the time for any deletions, additions, and or corrections.
I have one. We mentioned how the Public Works Department saved us a ton of money by doing all that pre-work on Centennial. That, I think that was a Public Works report. We need that. That. Ms. Clerk. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, under committee reports, Business Development Commission, should say final presentation for strategic initiatives, not incentives. And the final sentence should say, he will have a recommendation. The chairperson and the village president have a recommendation.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 20th, 2023, subject to the changes that have been talked about previously.
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, call roll, please.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
4 ayes, 2 absent.
All right, next we have Mr. Bill Rossetti. His term is expiring on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and he has asked or agreed to continue to serve. He told me that he wouldn't agree unless I asked. I think he saw that on Blue Bloods or something. Mr. Rossetti has volunteered for the village pretty much since he moved into town, which I want to say was around 2014, 2015.
Yes.
Our first conversation was via email about the fire hydrant in front of his house, asking if he could paint the fire hydrant and if it broke any laws. So he has volunteered for us for a long time. He's volunteered and he writes the newsletter that you get in your water bill every month. He kind of takes all the articles and puts it all together, and he does a lot of good things for the village outside of the appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. You formerly served on the Planning Commission, correct?
Yes.
When they were separate, and then when we combined, we pulled everybody in applicants, and he was one of the few people that wanted to continue to serve, and there's still something wrong with him because he wants to serve, I guess. So, but we thank him for his service, and I would present him for reappointment at this time. Are there any questions for Mr. Rossetti? All his information is in the packet. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Bill Rossetti to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term ending on April 30th, 2028.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Just that we thank you for all your service thus far and appreciate you coming.
Likewise. Thank you.
Okay, I have a first and second. Ms. Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
4 ayes, 2 absent.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hedges, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, we would ask your consideration, not your consideration, or your attention for a presentation of a concept plan of subdivision for the Tina Harrell project property. No action required tonight. We have with us tonight Mr. Gonzalo Tina Harrell. Would you like to speak or introduce your team?
Yep. Hi, good evening. Gonzalo Tinajero, owner of that property on Big Timber and Blaine. And we're working with DNC to see if we can turn this corner into commercial. You know, like to put our business in there. This is the fourth meeting. So with that, basically this is, do you have it up here now?
We have it in front of us.
Oh, you got it in front of you?
But Josh is getting it there. And please, anybody in the audience, if you want to move around or stand so you can see the screen, feel free to do so.
Have you better look at your three?
So we got about 16 acres on that corner. And we're looking to take 3.5 acres to put, a shop for a concrete company, not a concrete mixer, just a concrete company. Okay, so, basically that's what we'll be looking for, to have our equipment parked inside. And if you see the property stacked in the very part, so everything on that along Big Timber and along 20 could still stay, retail commercial, highway commercial.
On both sides, the one for 120 as well?
On 20 and on Big Timber. Let me see if I have that.
Yeah, it's got that plan.
If you guys have the concept plan in the very first page, those are where basically the building will be, you just have a driveway coming in, and everything else will be. And you can see where the proposed detention pond will be, where it's an existing pond already. So we're working with Army Corps of Engineers, checking, make sure that it's suitable for a retention pond.
We still have M2 up there, but it will be M1. That's what we're applying for on the application at this time. So we have a new one now that we'll send out when we get to the next stage.
Any questions?
Mr. Ray, M1, is that inclusive of this use?
What we've discussed is that the M1, M2, and M3 districts allow for generally other types of uses if approved as a special use. So we've discussed with Gonzalo and Heather that they will include in their application a petition for a special use in the M1 district for his type of business, which will allow that to go forward. And that's just a way to mitigate any concerns about, if he ended up selling this small property, it would be restricted to M1 type uses instead of M2.
Now, this is the second time you come before the board, and at the first board meeting, you spoke about kind of the operation of your business. Can you kind of give us a 30,000 foot overview of what you're looking to do on the back part of this property? Yeah, I understand you're putting up a building, but how does your business operate?
So
that,
we basically, we get a contract for a subdivision and we go in, we move some of our equipment, we leave it on site. So mostly, F-450s, F-350 trucks come in with a truck and trailer with a bobcat. Sometimes a mini excavator, that's the trucks are coming right inside the building. We have a couple conveyor belts that is used to, pour concrete. So we don't get off the road. It reaches about 100 foot out from the road end. So basically what you see on the new residential, basically what we do. I mean, I've been doing concrete for 20 years. I started Hilltop in 2008, down in the recession. That's time to start a business, you know? So we've been around for a while.
But it's not a bunch of semi trucks.
Oh, no, there's no
mixer
cement
trucks or any of that kind of stuff.
No, there's no cement trucks coming in. I mean, besides us pouring something in there, there's no cement trucks coming in there whatsoever. We do have a crane that moves forms, which be parked inside as well, you know? So there's like a group of 5 guys that come into the shop every morning. Everybody else gets a text message to go to the sites. So there's not 20 drivers that come to this site every morning. We have 24 guys running right now, plus 2 guys in the office. And everybody gets a text message where they're gonna go tomorrow morning. Except 5 guys.
And I guess just to clarify some of the things that I think have been misunderstood about this project, like you said, this is simply your company shop where your trucks are coming in, your guys come in, they get their tools they need for the day, they go out.
That's exactly
Right? It's not, I think, it's not manufacturing, it's not a big heavy thing, it's more of just a construction shop site.
It is basically,
To work on the trucks or
yeah,
equipment.
to maintain the equipment and to keep the value of our equipment, because they're sitting in the winter.
Sitting outside.
Yeah.
We know really well about that.
So can you clarify then, it's, because I know you do concrete, you've been doing it but there's gonna be no cement trucks coming in.
So a cement truck is basically Osinga you guys got here on by Briar Hill,
Okay,
okay? we buy from Osinga. So Osinga, I call in, like today, I call in, say I need 90 yards tomorrow. So they go directly to my job, okay, where I'm pouring concrete. There's no concrete trucks that come in to this particular job. We don't own the cement truck. We own couple conveyor belts. We own a couple 6-wheelers for gravel, because every job needs a base, for gravel. And that's what we use. So no cement trucks rather than for us when we do the construction. And I think that scenarios when you see hilltop concrete construction, everybody thinks that I'm gonna be mixing powder in there, or I'm gonna be doing things out of concrete, like some companies make flower pots. We don't do none of this stuff. Basically, we come to your house, sell your patio, sell your new home, a foundation. We'll put your foundation and we're done. At your location. Not any different. I think I believe you guys have outlet in town. Is that Finger Grove? Is that Hampshire?
Which one?
On 20 by John Deere.
That's.
That'd be Peter.
Yes, Finger Grove.
Yeah. Officially.
No, and then, so, questions have come up in this property, from what you've seen from residents. There is a residential home right here.
Mhm.
Now, you bought this property from
Yeah, the mother.
the mother and
Well, not directly from the mother, from an estate.
from the estate, and he elected to stay, and that's why.
So the property was offered to any other kids, whoever wanted to buy it. Nobody wanted to buy it. And I did talk to, not the guy that lives in the property, which I believe is Wesley. There was another kid that works as a surveyor. Don't recall his name very well.
Okay.
But he's the one that opened up the doors. Because when we bought the property, the house that is there, it was pretty much not included in the price because it was not fixable. Okay.
The one on the corner.
On the corner. So they were basically asked to see if anybody wanted to do it, to buy it. They couldn't come in agreement, and that's when the state took it over to sell it.
Okay. I was talking about the home that's gonna be.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and from the time we have been there, I still haven't met Wesley.
Okay.
Are you aware that he's actually staying there and is a,
So it's funny you mentioned this because Barbara, which we all know Barbara, called me. She has my number, and she says that Wesley would like to talk to me, but he has never called me. I said he can call me whenever he wants. Tell him that we were planning to knock down the house, and there were still some family belongings there. Because I haven't thrown some pictures, family pictures, because there was a lot of stuff there. And I said he can come and go through it before I knock it down, But I'm still waiting for a phone call.
That's the house up on the corner.
On the corner.
So the one to the right though of the property.
The one to the more east, that's his
In looking at the drawings that you have too, is the
driveway.
driveway on your property?
That is correct. That's an easement that he's allowed to use.
Okay. And then I think you had said this in the previous meeting, now all of your vehicles that would be coming on and off of 20, not Big Timber, correct?
We can use 20 for everything.
Okay.
But I guess because he's there, I like to use Big Timber, as
You're still gonna keep that there.
keep that open, because I think, by the time all this gets developed, you're gonna have to have a drive around inside, right?
Right.
what about the neighbor to the south? That property that's just south of yours? Has there been any communication with them? or-
He just came over and just say hi.
No?
That's it.
Okay, say hi.
I mean, he knows what your
He's
intentions
aware.
are.
Yeah.
And to go through this process, you're gonna have to send out.
Yep.
In and out comments.
I mean, basically, the only two neighbors we got right here, right? I mean, with the 200. So there's basically just those two.
And because I can't see any further and I'm not that familiar with it. Is that a farm?
So that is a farm.
So so then it kind of comes up further south. then.
I think after that is Christensen.
Okay,
I think after
This is.
Yes, Carl, Christian.
Crown and Christensen's after that.
All the way down,
okay,
on,
okay. And you said you're working with the Army Corps of Engineers on the wetlands.
Yeah, they have actually sent an email back to us.
Okay. And I did see the report that was in our packet as well. And of course, we all don't really understand all of that in there, but I know I had a couple questions in there. Just because it didn't seem like it was amenable for it. Let me see if I can find it. Look at that, let me see. Yeah, I wrote it down here. Yeah. Right, you've cleared all the trees already. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, there's a lot of information.
yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
If I could just touch on the wetlands, I'm Jim Condon, I'm
Okay,
from J. Condon and Associates, we're doing the engineering for the project.
okay,
We've retained a wetland consultant who has delineated the wetlands. We've actually had wetland survey put on the survey.
okay,
We are in the process of submitting the wetlands to the Army Corps for jurisdictional determination. We anticipate that the Army Corps will not have jurisdiction over it, so it'll be controlled locally under the county stormwater ordinance. And we'll follow those requirements. I think briefly, off the top of my head, we are talking about 15 to 30 foot buffers around that wetland. And we'll most likely to stay out of the wetland, put the detention around the outsides of the wetland and continue on, so.
okay. Okay, let's towards the very bad. This is 30. Okay, page 31 on it, I guess 15, I think up here. The soils on this site are considered potentially highly erodible land. And I didn't know that if that was going to be any sort of problem, especially.
No.
It's not at all.
No, when we go to develop the property in the phases that will be developed, the initial phase really is just his project plus the construction of the detention basin. We have to go through the erosion control process and make sure that we get everything stabilized and everything else. And eventually, as the property moves forward, we tackle that over and over again. That will not be an issue. It's actually a relatively flat property considering everything. So it should not present any problems at all from an erosion control standpoint.
Okay,
And your ordinance, the stormwater ordinance, requires us to address exactly that. And your consultant, the village's consultant, will review it and verify it's okay.
okay. On page 19, then, of yours, 35 of ours, that report was the soil interpretations for small commercial buildings, which is kind of what you're doing, or is yours considered a larger building than it?
I mean, it's 21,000 square feet. I would say it falls in that category.
Okay, because then it said, you know, in looking at the pictures and stuff, the yellow area was somewhat limited, but the red areas were, you know, listed as very limited and high maintenance.
So can I say something? Because when they came and test, so there's an existing tile. It crosses over underneath 20.
Okay,
And I think that tile was broken over the years. And we have that's why we're having these issues. Because when they came in the survey for the wetlands, we actually, he called and said, hey, we got more water than normal. This is spring.
okay,
And I actually had to happen to have a guy close by with a mini excavator. And we went to dig where he was digging and we were able to locate the tile that was there. So
okay,
there's a tile there, is there, that's why there's like more probably that we're gonna address that. Once all the permit is done, we're not allowed to put a new tile in, but we can replace this tile at the same elevations and everything.
The tile is broken on the left side
Yeah,
of 20.
we are in the process of locating that tile, so we know exactly where it's at, have it surveyed. And when we proceed with the project, we'll actually include the connection of that drain tile from the west end through and in through our project. We can't just completely ignore it. We have to take it around it. It's part of the requirement, so.
okay.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for?
What do you think of our timing? When would you like to break ground and have this go, or what are you hoping?
Next week. I think it was last week.
Last week.
I think we have, meetings up until July 4th. The building is actually gonna be delivered in, September, beginning of September.
Okay.
And so we, as soon as we, hopefully permitting will go fast and then we'll start our site work and then we'll start the building in September. That's my goal.
I want to be there by Christmas,
Yes.
even if there's no.
Even if we just get the insulated metal panel.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we did add to the application, because I know you guys didn't go through the gravel, didn't get passed. So we did add, for an extension on that for 3 years, and then he will, obviously, because he's a concrete company, he will concrete the whole, entire site there around his building. But just, that's one of the things that we're gonna be asking for. So the gravel to have,
And we were considering an ordinance that would allow gravel parking in industrial areas.
Oh,
That was decided to be tabled at the board meeting we had over at middle school.
okay.
so we put it on there. And John asked to add that to that. So it's one of the things that I think I'll look at later. at
One of
another
his
meeting.
other clients got a variance for that same purpose over at Rocker Ventures.
Yeah,
That's for the commercial areas that you're looking just around, basically, are you looking just to get it zoned that way? And plan to, once your building is in there, to start developing it, or are you looking?
That would probably be the ideal, either, once the building gets in, it's a big undertaking for the company, you know?
Mhm.
And we wanna be sure we start and finish it. And then since we're gonna have certain wide, on the property by then, it'd be a lot easier to develop it, you know? Even, if we cannot develop ourselves, at that point, we can, you know, propose it for somebody else to come in.
Next time Starbucks calls, we're gonna refer them to them.
right. Gas station, Starbucks, we were in
The amount of teachers that keep asking us over and over and over again.
Those kids up there spend more money at Starbucks than the teachers do.
I think one of the things that we talked about, you guys wanted, by the time this all gets developed, you guys want like a bike path in front of Big Timber. I think that was one of the conversations you guys brought up last time.
I think we also want to point out, we showed a couple of zonings on there. One was commercial highway. We did allow some other zonings because it is a large parcel to give us some flexibility because it is a little bit undetermined. So that's why you see a couple of different zonings in those areas to provide the flexibility. We obviously want the highway commercial because that's the most valuable to everybody, but it's a large enough parcel that there'd probably be some secondary uses to it, whether it be like a dental office or a medical office or things like that, that would pop into there also for a small portion of it. That's the reasoning for the two different zonings on those parcels. So.
A restaurant would be a possibility as well, just curious.
For sure.
That's why you got lot 2 right there.
Okay.
Keep the options open.
You didn't know Gonzalo was a cook, did you?
Yeah.
Well, Taco John,
I cooked for a long time, so right there, that's why we let lot 2 right there. That'll be a restaurant.
The staffs at the schools and the students at the schools have been asking for something out that way because for them, there's not a whole lot of options. They can always come back into town.
You either run to truck stop or you run into Huntley, go give the taxes to Huntley.
Yeah.
I know in the BDC meetings too, when we were discussing the Oakstead, like the long-term plan, that corner of Big Timber and 20, as well as down 20, closer to like Allen and 20, were seen as good places for retail commercial for when that area is developed out, whether it's office space like for medical office or those type of things, or actual retail commercial restaurant. Those were identified as good areas for that type of business by BDC.
All right. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor, we would ask for your consideration of an ordinance amending provisions of chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 9 of the municipal code Hampshire regarding outdoor seating. This was discussed at the last board meeting. We've gone back now and Mr. Caselli has drafted an ordinance that we believe addresses the board's desires. If you recall at the last meeting, we were. We recall at the last meeting, the one item that the board was split on was whether or not dogs would be allowed in this outdoor seating area. They are allowed in this ordinance, but that needs to be amended. That's the board, if the board so chooses. So with that, Josh, if you'll make a brief introduction.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there was, other than that, there were 2 other changes to this ordinance based on discussion last time, and that's, that all of the restaurants that have liquor licenses will now be able to have this outdoor seating as opposed to just the one liquor classification that was set up for it. And then the licensing and the fee have been taken away for that. So if you need a liquor license, of course, you still get that. If you just want to have outdoor seating, there's no license or fee required. All of the enforcement mechanisms are still in place for making sure that the area is kept clean. The hours didn't change or anything like that. So if there's any other changes you have, you can of course make them. And we're available for questions.
I was not present at the last meeting, but I did watch it and I watched the discussion. I have not spoken to staff about this, so it's not a bomb or anything I'm trying to drop. I'm for pets, big time, because the thing of it is that that's going to be under the jurisdiction really of the restaurant or the business establishment, and whether or not their business insurance wants to cover it anyway. So I don't really feel like it's our place to be saying, no, we're not going to allow pets in a restaurant or something like that. It really should be up to the business and whether or not they want to have the insurance to cover something like that. Because and then today I was on social media, and Hampshire Social actually had their windows open, and they had posted a picture of somebody's dog that came to visit. And so if we were to pull it out of this ordinance, technically they wouldn't be able to have pets there. You know, or same with chicken dip, if somebody's walking, right? Somebody's walking by and they go to, and they're walking with their family and they want to get an ice cream cone and they want to sit outside, they wouldn't be able to do that because we decided that they shouldn't. And so my thought process is it's really not our call. I'm not preaching, but it's up to their business and their insurance. That's my thought.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think if people are highly allergic to pets, what am I gonna do when I'm sitting there with my family? I'm allergic to dogs, and a dog comes in. Do we ask to wrap our food up to go and leave?
This is just outside.
I know,
This is not inside.
I know.
I think that's ultimately on the business too, though, they can choose to not allow it, even though it is allowed in the ordinance.
And well, if anybody looks at any of the Facebook stuff, a restaurant would be scared to not allow it, because by the time everybody gets done piling on Facebook, that business will be closed. I think everybody can look on Facebook and attest to that. We set the number of chickens. Why do we do that? Why don't we just say, you got a half an
I was
acre?
against those two.
You got, how many chickens can you fit on a half an acre? Go ahead. But no, we told them this is what you gotta have. This is what you're allowed to have. So we can't set some provisions for things and not for others.
We could limit how many dogs we'll allow.
Well, we have that in the ordinance too, right? Like how many animals, not in this one, but how many animals and stuff somebody's allowed to have at home.
Yeah.
Right? That's done through Kane County's animal ordinance and that kind of thing. So I mean, I think that those limits are already in place. I think that I don't know, I don't like getting into the business of telling businesses how they can or can't operate. I mean, over stuff like this,
They can't have the dogs or the animals inside the restaurant because of health department rules, but the option is for the outside. And I think we have so many people here that are trying to drive to the downtown area and they're bringing their families. And I don't own a dog, but I think it should be up to that business to decide. And I think that will help bring people down because they can bring the dog, stop at the park and do other things. So I think the businesses might react by having maybe one side of the patio that will have dogs and the other one, or animals, and the other side that wouldn't. And not that they're going to be huge, but maybe a buffer in between.
it's really up to them,
I
right?
think it's up to the business.
It is
how
up
they
to
wanna
business.
handle that. But I think
Yeah.
it's also the liability of the business if they choose to allow this though, so I think I don't think we should get into the business of how they run their business. But we should set the expectations for the bare minimum. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, if you want to have a dog at your restaurant, and that might drive away some customers. If you don't want to allow pets, that might drive away. It's gonna have to be your business decision based on your business research model, so.
I mean, you walk into a store, a lot of times they'll have right on the door, this is no animals but service animals. And that wasn't the city that the business is in, say, that's just their policy.
Right. You can bring your dog into Home Depot if you want, or Farm and Fleet. I mean,
I'm not gonna bring, it's up to the board.
but it's up to the business to decide that. I don't think it's up to the.
I have the same feeling because I'm like having smoking and non-smoking. How do you stop smoke from not getting to a person? You put it in an area, but it's, so I feel as I have the same feelings with animals for that too. I'm not anti-animal at all. I don't have pets, but I don't feel that you're protecting the people that don't have the animals or don't want the animals. They're not getting a choice. So I have similar feelings too.
Maybe we should reach out to the businesses. We can approve the outdoor seating, but reach out to the businesses. They might be looking for us to pass it to help them, so they don't get blasted on Facebook. If we pass this with no pets, then no one can go on Facebook and blast these restaurants for allowing a pet or not allowing it. But if Copper Barrel or any one of these other restaurants, and this passes, says we don't want pets here for the liability, they're gonna get blasted on Facebook and it could hurt their business.
So instead they could just blast us for getting involved in things.
Mr. Reed, I asked, maybe we should speak to the restaurants first, okay? So take the jab off the table.
It's not jabbing you at all, I'm just
It's
saying.
more than the downtown State Street. This would apply to anywhere within the village. So while I appreciate we're using those examples, when we talk about driving people here, it also affects people that are off the 72 or any new strip malls that would happen, or whatever we call those nowadays, that would be developed off of 72. So I think we need to broaden how this is. I guess my point is, should the village, in this case, if it's not against health code and it's not against the Kane County Health Department to have an animal outdoors at a restaurant, and they're following the rules and regulations and they're okay with it with their insurance, then is it up to the village to mandate whether you can or you can't, or should we say that's the power of the business to make that decision? Which customer do you want to allow? And we're not going to set a standard to say current businesses said they probably wouldn't have dogs anyway, so we're just not gonna allow any dogs. We should just say, okay, then don't allow dogs. Have a sign up, or pets, we'll just say pets, right? But I guess I have a concern of us getting down to that level of a definition within here to restrict somebody when they can self-restrict. We're not saying you can't stop people from bringing pets. I think by saying you can have them, we're saying it's up to you. You make that decision as the business owner, because you're gonna have a trade-off, as was Trustee Robinson said. In some cases, if you don't allow it, you can lose customers because they can go somewhere else with their pet and they have the right to choose what business to frequent. If you do allow it, you could lose people that don't want to have a meal or have the potential to have a meal around a pet for allergies or whatever reason, and they can choose to go frequent another business. But the choice should be on the business or the consumer that's making the choice on who to support. I just personally don't feel it should be on the village to make that decision for the business.
I agree with that. I mean, I wrestled with this since we discussed it last week. Am I gonna bring my dog? No, because my dog is a jerk. I like to bring my dog, yes, but I don't want that responsibility. But that's my personal decision. I don't want the government telling me what I can and can't do when it comes down to this level. I guess for lack of a better way to say it. Like, if I choose to open a business, I feel that I should have the choice to run that business as I see fit. If I want to allow pets, that's my decision. I might drive away customers. If I don't want to allow pets, I might drive away customers that way. So, but that's my money. I should be able to run it that way, you know what I'm saying? So
As long as you're
I'm
within
kind of,
the health guidelines and you're not breaking.
as long as, yes, yeah, so I was initially against this, but then it's more of it's a capitalist economy. I mean, it's on the business to decide, I guess, so I'm leaning more towards, yes, let the business
We
decide.
may get a
Less
lot of
regulation.
businesses that say absolutely not.
Yeah.
Not at my-
I'm just, my
Maybe
initial
right.
is because of what I see every single day in the parks.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All the dogs are on leashes, they crap everywhere, people don't pick it up. You give them a bag and tell them to pick it up, and they get violent, they try to get violent. So what I see in the parks every day,
But that's gonna be the responsibility of
Yeah,
the
no, I
business to enforce that.
I don't
They're
disagree with
gonna-
you though, trustee Coe, that there are those that frequently are not following the rules that currently do exist and cause dangerous situations.
Or litter or dog waste. But
Right.
that is gonna be a code violation on the business then, because they chose to allow that. That's gonna be their responsibility. That's, and I see it at the dog parties, you see it in your parkway. People won't pick up after their dog, but I can't do that at a restaurant. There's gonna be a violation.
What we could do, to trustee Coe, to your statement earlier, we could look at a compromise of, if we pass it as is now, and we see there starts to become a problem, but we get complaints from the community that there have been issues, we can come back and amend this and say, no dogs allowed. We allow that, it caused issues, and we are stopping that. If it becomes a public health or a public concern, we could always do something like that unless I'm mistaken.
Could we just, at that point, amend the running at large that we have, because we have restrictions now where the dog's gotta be on a leash and that kind of stuff, could we just add it to that, and say no dogs at an outdoor seating or something of that nature?
Can we look at page 10 of the ordinance, page 59 of our packets, subsection K? To trustee Coe's point, all the animals must be leashed at all times. And that was an intent to ensure controls. When we were debating this, when the board was debating this last time, there was some talk of how dogs got in other people's eating spaces at different locations, like in the city, and that this would serve the control. And then obviously, the owner would be held responsible for the conduct of any animal allowed in the outdoor seating area. So that it also, we had that in there before, but I think that kind of goes to the idea that there needs to be some controls on there. And I think that if there is an issue relative to a dog, sorry to say this, third meeting, but defecating in an outdoor seating, they're probably gonna have a bigger issue than a code problem if it gets reported to the health department.
Mhm.
So there are gonna be some controls with leashing and with regards to the ultimate responsibility lying with the restaurant or tavern owner. To your point, trustee Kelly, yeah, we can change this, at any point in time we want to. If we go for a year and we find out as a collective board and employees and officials that this isn't working out, we can amend it anyway.
On the reverse side of that, could it be passed without K and somebody apply for a special use or a variance to allow an animal in that space?
So if if it was silent on K, then there would be no regulations outside the animals.
So the animal could be there
The
anyway.
animal can be there.
So we have to have something that specifically says no animals.
Correct. I would want something that would say no animals. Otherwise, it would be unregulated at this point in time, other than inside. This is obviously, we're only talking about outside the four walls of the establishment, let's say. But with regards to K, if we see in 3 months that this isn't working, we'll just amend it. I'm not saying it doesn't take anything to amend an ordinance. We're happy to do it if we're so asked.
I just never really paid any attention to it realistically until the conversation was had at the board level, and now I'm kind of hypersensitive to the fact, oh, look, there's a dog there. I've been eating outside and all these different restaurants forever, and it's not very uncommon to see somebody there with their animal, and I never really thought anything about it until we started talking about it, so.
And I think we do already have, I think, with Hampshire Social out there, people are walking across from the library and grabbing something to drink, and I think, I'm assuming, and pardon me for doing that people are already coming with their dogs up and down State Street. So this just would be to sit at a
You're allowed to
restaurant.
walk your dog down State Street.
Well, there's currently no ordinance that would disallow you having your animal outside while you have your coffee beverage or whatever you're having. As from what the village attorney just shared. We'd have to have something specifically saying you can't.
And is there, let's say that we decide to say, no, we're not doing this, no dogs allowed. What kind of enforcement issues does that bring, Chief Pan? I mean, is that something that you guys are prepared to enforce when the restaurant calls and said, hey, there's a dog outside?
If it was an ordinance and we were asked to enforce it, we would enforce it.
Can I ask a question on a different topic? 14-13-4 obstruction or damage to sidewalk. The language in here is pretty interpretive or flexible. We don't really define how much of a sidewalk has to remain open. We just say the width, or that you have to allow for the passing of a wheelchair, a baby stroller, a walker. I mean, according to ADA, wheelchairs are 26 inches wide for an adult wheelchair, so we're talking a little over 2 feet, and I'm meeting this qualification. Our sidewalks are 8 feet wide. Do we really want to say only 2 foot of a sidewalk is going to be available, or like, do we need to have more defined numbers? I'm sorry?
We were just trying, the attempt was to make them passable. That was the original concept.
I'm just wondering, do we need to put in an actual defined distance that must remain open for the community to be able to easily pass?
I mean, it's a question of whether you think a tape measure is necessary or whether somebody can just walk through. Is it passable or is it, does somebody have to go out and
I
measure?
mean, by ADA, we'd have to at least be at the 26.
It has to be passable.
So if they push chair, like, you've got a group that's out there and someone grabs a chair from another and they're kind of teens, I'm just gonna say, they all want to be at the same table and that could potentially block
And
that
if somebody comes
sidewalk.
along and they block their way, then they have to either move or they're in violation.
Then they're, okay. And that would be up to the restaurant.
To
then.
either to enforce it or to report it to us, and we'd have
Okay.
to send somebody out there.
Okay.
I mean, if there is anybody blocking the sidewalk that refuses to move, they call us, we send the police over there.
Okay.
But honestly, I can't conceive of that happening. Somebody comes down the sidewalk here, people just scatter out of the way. That's what I,
So the recommendation would not to have a defined distance.
I mean, that's up to you, but it seems to me that it would be kind of hard to enforce. You literally have to be walking around the tape measure to do that.
By the time
It's
you
easy,
walk out.
it's easy to say that somebody could pass or couldn't pass, right?
And yeah, I guess the hard part then becomes, okay, there's a difference between a single baby stroller and a side-by-side baby stroller, and those are much wider than a wheelchair. And so then how does a restaurant know I can come out this far without potentially causing an issue? That's the only thing I'm thinking of. Like, if we're giving a restaurant or a bar or somebody guidance, and we're saying, here's the ordinance, I always,
Well, it does say baby stroller, so if you can't fit your double baby stroller, you're in violation.
how big is that compared to a regular baby stroller? And if I came in and I said, hold on, you wanted to ticket me for an ordinance violation, and it says baby strollers, and a baby stroller here is 18 inches wide and I could fit through, so I technically met this. You didn't tell me which baby stroller, you just said baby strollers. I'm just trying to take ambiguity out of it. I agree, I don't know that it's gonna be a problem, but if I'm a business owner and I have to follow an ordinance, we have very defined things for other ordinances to attend to, and I just wonder, or if the board's okay with it, I'm just gonna shut up on the topic. It just seemed very ambiguous of what it was, what we're defining.
I think that passable is fine for now until we notice tons of abuse and then we have to go back and change it. And then we have to issue cops, tape measures to wear on their utility belts. Maybe.
I'm okay with passing.
Get the laser tag.
Oh, okay.
I have another point to make. On page 9 at the very top, all outdoor furniture shall be removed from any sidewalk or public way during times it is not in use. And we're not doing that right now with the furniture that is out there from, some of the bars that we have up on 72. And I think that should be that all outdoor furniture shall be pushed towards the business wall, just to get it further away so that people can pass, but if there's nobody there. But to say it has to be removed, that would require a restaurant to bring all of that inside, including umbrellas and Honestly, Hampshire Social would have to bring those metal tables in someplace. And I don't think that's the spirit of what we're trying to do here. So I would change remove to push towards the business wall or whatever.
And trustee Bullshit, that's an error. It should not have been, it was not intended to be drafted that.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we're gonna
Okay.
remove that, 14-13-5.
okay. The other, and it's just a
So
little,
all of 14-13-3 would be removed.
Oh, yeah.
Let's try.
Oh, no.
so the whole thing is gone.
14-13, no, because
It's added.
E, F, G and stuff is all.
No, there is no subsections on 4-13-3.
Removal of furniture in the public way is added.
So it's a procedural thing, because that was fees before. Fees were stricken after feedback from the board last time. So we replaced fees. Well, it'll be renumbered. So if we do approve this tonight, we'll make it numbering consistent with the changes of the board. Because we slid 14-3 that one change with regards to the furniture into when fee, the substantive section of the fee was stricken. So then we had an empty title we had an empty number where we just put the furniture section. So we'll renumber it.
The entire section's being removed.
They will be.
That's the question.
Well, all fees were taken out from last meeting.
So with that what you're saying is with that section being removed, 4-13-4 becomes 4-13-3.
And all.
And then subsequently, yeah.
Correct. So if we do pass this tonight, one of the amendments, rather than having to go through and make every line item amendment and numbering, we'll just renumber in accordance with the changes set forth here.
But that's still an addition. I mean, that's added language and we're just changing what 13-3 is, but it does remain. That sentence will remain, correct?
No, I mean,
No, there's.
I thought you had
shouldn't
to
be
strike
there
it.
at all. The sentence would be stricken.
Well, then why did we amend the title to removal of furniture in the public way?
Well, the title was fees,
But
and it was
but it's
stricken, and
stricken,
then it was added to removal of furniture in the public way.
but then you just said
consistent with the
we're not
change.
having it at the back and we're eliminating it.
Correct, so all of the numbering,
I think you're just confusing people with the numbers.
No, I'm not, I don't care about the numbering. I'm just saying you've moved, you've stricken the word fee out of there so that's, I'm fine with that.
Correct.
But you've added the additional underlined language is to add removal of furniture in the public way. And that the fee is gone, but we're replacing that with the furniture part, and then it's just one sentence. Everything else is stricken and that part is underlined. And that sentence goes along with what the title is.
but so we'll strike the title.
But the sentence is still there now.
But I thought we just said we were gonna strike the sentence.
Well, I thought Mr. Ed just said that wasn't
It's supposed to be.
supposed to be in there. I guess.
So by consent of the rest of the board, that's being removed is all we're saying. So that's being taken out. Any reference to moving furniture will be taken out. That won't be required.
So they won't have to move it. to
They
the-
want-
So they don't even have to move it back. It can just sit
Correct.
anywhere
Correct.
then. Okay,
So if they said like, here's our company tables, they don't have to move it.
okay, then it stays just the way it is. Okay. The other, it is very silly, but it kind of annoyed me because it's nowhere else in any. And on page 10 on J, all of a sudden we had put in his, her, or its patrons. And really, its is all we need. Because we don't have his, her, or anything anywhere else in the whole document. So just to strike out the words his, her, or, and just leave it solely responsible for the conduct of its patrons.
It does say restaurant or tavern operator. The tavern operator would be a his or its. But we can change it, it's fine. I think it's a lead fine.
Okay, so, just so that I'm recapping here, we're going to, leave pets alone. We're not going to restrict it. We're gonna leave it as it's written here because it has controls in here. We're gonna remove any references to moving furniture out of the public way. And we are going to renumber in accordance with the changes we made tonight. Those are the three that I have. Did I miss one?
There's a fourth under J, striking the words his, comma, her, or on page 10 of the ordinance under subsection J of the same.
Any other changes proposed? I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 23-06, an ordinance amending provisions from chapter 3 and chapter 9 of the municipal code of Hampshire regarding outdoor seating, removing the references to moving the furniture in the public way, changing his and her, leaving the pets alone, and renumbering in accordance to the changes that we made tonight.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Hi.
Motion passed 5-1.
With that, Mr. Mayor, we'd ask your consideration of a resolution modifying the transition fees to be paid by and from applicants for any development. Ms. Lyons will give you a brief summary. You have it in the packet.
Transition fees are generally updated every year, shortly after the consumer price index has been issued by the US Census Bureau. We have not, however, adjusted our transition fees since 2008. So from 2018. Caught myself. Yep, so in your packet, you have an agenda supplement that shows the total transition fees that are currently being collected by the village, amounting to $5,026.02. Implementing those CPI changes for the years that we have not adjusted for brings us to transition fees of $6,768.65. I've included the chart of our current fees as well as those that are proposed should this be adopted, and the CPI index that we're utilizing to get to those numbers.
Any questions for Ms. Lyons?
One, Ms. Lyons, thank you very much. I had sent Ms. Lyons a question, or Mr. Hedges a question via email. Ms. Lyons gave a great explanation, because I thought in the tables, table A and table B, that the park and the schools were split because of how much the park is supposed to get. Which is then no surprise to me why developers offer land instead of paying for those fees. The one thing I did just notice, and I apologize, I didn't say it beforehand, there's no difference in the dollar value from table A to table B. So like if I look at 2-bedroom, single family resident under school, it's 768 in table A and it's 768 in table B.
I'm just sorry, I didn't get to that too.
Okay, sorry, it's page 65 on the.
Yep. So 7,675.95, is that what you're talking about?
No, so the first line, oh, I see, the bottom part, half of that is the impact fee, that's not changing, it's the top one that you're.
Correct, yes, it's the
I see the
very,
separation, I was reading the table wrong, apologies.
yep, the furthest column to the right at the very top shows the transition fee
Yep.
total.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
I was looking at the separation. Is there a reason why we don't separate transition fees based on the type of residence like we do impact fees?
No, this is the way it's called for in the ordinances, so, it's a little
It's
bit
not like a
different.
state law, it's a village ordinance.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess maybe I can't answer your question about that off the top of my
Okay,
head.
I just didn't know if that was like a state regulation that it.
Yeah. So as I described in this email to Mr. Kelly, there's varying factors that lead to the calculation of these transition fees. And sometimes it's on the total number of children, quote, generated from a type of property. Sometimes it's on the total residents that are expected to live in the property and those types of things. And then it's factored in also the value of an acre of improved land in the village. So I guess, I guess there must be some definition because these formulas.
Relative to how we can set fees, and that, I'm just.
The
I want to follow the
transition
question.
fees, yeah.
So our impact fees, we
Yes.
separate and set based on the type of residence. So we have 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, single family residence, townhomes.
Oh, I know the answer to this question. I'm sorry.
The light bulb goes on, right? I'm sorry. So your question to me was, you thought that the parks and the school were flip-flopped, right? No, wait, let's just,
The original.
yes, the original question. And that was, we explained why that was the way it was. So impact fees are a capital fee for the various districts, right? Versus transition fees are actually trying to capture that property tax. So the property tax doesn't really matter on the number of bedrooms, although you would think that, you know, like it would be cheaper to build a 2-bedroom house than it would be to build a 5-bedroom house, but it absolutely is. But I think that that's the difference, is this is supposed to be a measure, what do I want to say? A proportional, like, so we've taken all of the homes into consideration, all the different types of homes. And seriously, the calculation looks at each and every category of home and then does the transition fee from that. So it's got them all melded together versus, yeah, I wouldn't say it's probably a weighted average. It would be a weighted average.
But I mean, it's an average. So if I'm a developer and I'm building estate homes that are going to have very high property taxes versus I'm a developer that's building one apartment complex, I'm
Right,
gonna pay the same per unit
on those transition fees.
on the
that's it.
transition.
Yep,
Because that's the calculated weighted average amongst all properties, irregardless of what we're building.
I believe that that's exactly accurate, yes.
And that's per our ordinance or the state one? Or state
This is per our calculation. I honestly have never done a transition calculation for another community, so I can't, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Lyons?
Just one quick one. We haven't done this since 2018, 2019, and I kind of understand why we did it. Were we consistently raising them prior to that?
Yes.
So each year we did follow what it was and then,
Yeah.
okay.
We had to adopt it every year.
Okay.
We don't have a impact fee for the township. I know, I see the transition fee, but we don't have an impact.
We do not. That's correct.
They lobbied for the transition fees not too long ago.
3 years, 2 years.
Well, I thought we had passed something.
It's the transition.
Just the transition.
Just the transition.
Before that,
There was
the
nothing.
board wouldn't give them a dime.
Right, okay. And then how do these compare to our neighbors around us?
I honestly didn't check that for this. I'll bring back that information.
Years ago, they were pretty competitive, except for like Finger Grove, we
Actually,
didn't have any.
Pingree Grove had in their original agreement with D.R. Horton to not
Do any
impose.
fees, right?
Correct. So we were well over that, obviously. So, but their latest agreement, it's my understanding that those are in there. So I can get that chart for you.
No, I was just wondering.
Okay.
It's not gonna change tonight, so just curious.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lyons.
Sure thing.
Any other questions? And I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance or resolution 23-10, modifying the transition fees to be paid by any applicants for any development. Questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Hi.
Ms. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1.
Now for everybody's favorite report, financial report. And we have the streets report. We can look over them together or we can pull them apart separately. It's up to you. Ms. Lyons is dying to answer any questions that you might have about the financial report, and Trustee Coe is all about the streets.
Ms. Lyons, if you could, on page 70, if you could just touch upon the pension trust fund,
Sure.
the 253% increase on the expenditures and where we're at, what we've paid already and expectations.
So this year, the pension trust is a little bit out of whack, if you will. We have a pending disability claim where we've had a lot of medical expenses that we've had to incur for independent medical evaluations. Per statute, we're required to get 3 independent medical evaluations. And along with that, We've had additional attorney fees, associated with our attorney gathering the information and speaking with the individual's attorney. Unfortunately, that thing is kind of stalled out. I think like it's getting going again, maybe, but that's one of the reasons. And then we did not expect last year to have 2 retirements, which have led to additional pension payments going out as well.
That was the big one that I could confirm. Okay, thank you.
On the same page, question to be answered later,
Sure.
because I know in the next meeting, we'll see the year end.
You'll see a
Close to it.
preliminary
Yeah,
year.
preliminary.
Very preliminary, yep.
So the staff has seemingly done a phenomenal job. I say seemingly just because it's preliminary. That we've, our year-to-date actual has ended with a $1.6 million surplus total in the village. 800,000 in general fund, 391 in special revenue, 43,000 in capital, 432,000 enterprise, 1.6 million total. In the next meeting, when we have that preliminary for the year end, could you share with the board how much of that is that spend is moving into this next fiscal year for projects that may have been pushed out, or how much of this is actually surplus that we were not counting on having in there because of the fiscal responsibility of the staff? Because that's huge to see here, which is great. I just know there are other things we've been talking about, potential spend that understanding, okay, it looks like 1.6, but actually 1.2 moved into the next fiscal year, so it's really 400, or what that looks like could be.
So, one thing just to keep in mind is we did pass a balanced budget for fiscal year 24. And anything that we projected not to be spent, well, most things I'll say, because there's things that we're finding that we aren't going to hit in fiscal year 23 that we thought were going to be completed and the payments made, et cetera. So those things that we did project were not, obviously not going to be spent, that would have to be carried over, have been rebudgeted. So when we end the year with a surplus, we'll end the year with a surplus. And I've talked to Jay about this. What I'd like to do is last year and in the years past, we've come to the board with the final draft of the audit for you to review and approve. And this year, what I'd like to do is bring a draft and say, okay, we've got $1 million surplus. I would like to move this amount of money into the capital improvement fund for police cars, future police cars. We don't have a single police car in our FY24 budget, but we should be saving for that because we know that we will need future police cars. I would like to move, the snowplow that we ordered at this time last year hasn't even been put into production. We need to move that $280,000, which by the time it actually goes into production, may cost us a little more, I'm not sure. I'd like to move that $280,000 into capital improvement for some specific purposes. So at that point, you'll have the ability to approve these transfers, which will effectively reduce the surplus in the general fund and move it to capital improvement. We'll make sure that we retain the appropriate amount of reserves in the general fund, but at least move those monies to capital so that they're there for future.
So let me ask on your snow plow example.
Yes.
I know these aren't the right numbers.
Sure.
Apologies. We budgeted 250,000 this year for that snow plow. It didn't go into production, so we didn't spend. What you were saying earlier is that the next fiscal budget is the balanced budget. And since we knew we didn't pay for that in this budget, are you saying that was already included in this next budget?
It was actually put in the FY24 budget as being financed.
Right. So, but that's already included in that.
It is.
It's not like, well, we didn't pay for it and it wasn't part of the budget, so we're gonna need to move it to cover it because we weren't counting on it. What you were saying is, actually, we knew we didn't pay for it because it's not in production. Hoping it'll be in this next fiscal year, so we did add it, maybe in a different lever using financing versus paying off.
Correct.
But it is included.
It is there, yes. That one is, yep, that's one of the.
I'm just thinking that could be a helpful understanding as we go through this, and we're talking about things like streets garage that if it's 1.5
Absolutely.
million. While we don't have
Absolutely.
police cars in the next budget. and
100%.
We're looking to finance a snowplow with $1 million or 2 million could go towards a street garage. It's a big chunk of change.
It
that
is.
cuts down financing.
Understood, yeah,
So that's why I was kind
I agree.
of asking some of that
Yeah.
about the possible.
It knocks 1 year off of 20 years.
It what?
It knocks 1 year off of 20 years.
No, it knocks 75% of the total cost of the building.
Because you're gonna pay
The
it.
total building was 1.5 million. You
Right.
have 1.2 million in cash up front. You're financing 300,000, not 1.5 million.
I think by the time they get around to building, it'll be a little more, 1.5.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that is a huge impact. I'm not saying, I'm throwing out numbers here that are nonsensical because they're not actual things that we know yet. I'm just saying, trustee Coe, like being able to put that amount down significantly reduces the financing cost to the village and any other potential costs that may come up. So just a thought. That's why.
Yep,
But thank you for that.
yeah.
Any other questions about the financial report or the streets report? I haven't had any streets questions yet. Hearing none, we can move on to accounts payable. So let's move on to accounts payable to personnel in the amount of $1,332.93. Does anyone have any questions about the accounts payable to personnel?
Page 84.
Page 84.
Gil got reimbursed $57.69 for magazine pouches. Is that for like bullet gun magazines or Newsweek?
They would be handgun magazines.
Thank you.
It's Time Magazine, if you must know.
My only question.
Glamour.
It would be something tactical, for sure. If it was a magazine, it would be something tactical.
That's a name of magazine I got. Any other questions about the accounts payable to personnel?
To personnel.
I will entertain the motion to approve the accounts payable to personnel in the amount of $1,332.93. So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Paulini?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Coe?
Aye.
Mr. Matt?
Aye.
Motion passed by 1 absent.
Now we have the big one, which is $388,859.56.
Can I
Any
ask,
questions?
I just wanted to ask, on page 82, we have the Bank of New York Mellon. And we've got a total there, 21,706. On page 91, we have it again.
Yep. So we have two separate vendors set up because they go to two different addresses at Bank of New York Mellon. Different post office boxes, and trust me, we've actually used the wrong vendor one time, and it was a disaster for them to find our money at the wrong post office box. So it was horrible. I think at one point we had 3 loan payments go out. And, like we sent an ACH and they said they couldn't get that. It's horrible. They're a big bank and they're very non-personal, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So, we do have, that small amount is for, their admin fees, tending to our bond. So
Okay, thank you. Because I'm like, it's alphabetical, but it's 2 of them.
different post office.
All right, thank you.
And our alphabetizing system, I don't know if you've noticed, is very strange. Like, it's technically called the Bank of New York Mellon. We file under the letter T.
Yeah.
In some cases.
But the other one was, I assumed it was B then.
Yes.
Bank.
Yeah.
That's why I just was, okay, that's fine.
On page 82,
Yes.
what were the concrete curbs? that we- Oh,
Those-
I'm sorry.
No. All the curbs.
That's trustee Robinson.
All the curbs on Centennial.
No, that's not $60,000 worth of curbs.
Should be.
Really? When's the last time you did concrete?
It's
I had-
Just last week.
At every corner, there's a.
The AJ ramps.
And all the storm sewers.
Okay.
Where was this at?
Centennial.
Centennial, the new
Centennial
blacktop
project.
road that they did.
Oh, okay.
I thought they meant just the sewer, where they put the sewer in that curve.
It's at every intersection for the handicap ramps and the storm sewers.
The look on Craig's face is where they're just gonna let him.
Should have did that for like $15, $20.
I would have done that on a Saturday.
They drive north.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just want on page 86, Illinois Department of Transportation, what's going, I mean, did I miss something on Briar Hill Road?
Yeah, so in 2018, we resurfaced Briar Hill Road. The state, it takes a very long time to invoice. So we finally got, it was a, oh gosh, what do you call it? What are those, what do you call those things?
Lights, streets.
No, local, oh. Where's Tim Paulson when you need it? What do you call those things? It's a cooperation where we actually work through Kane County to get approval for this repaving project. It was.
It's the STP.
There you go, okay.
Okay.
It's a state paving project cooperation thing. So anyway, we paid the engineers, they paid the contractor. We had to pay our share of the contractor, which was done mostly way before this. And then they reimbursed us for some of the engineering. So all that has finally, I believe that this is our last bill for that project in 2018. And we finally have all of our reimbursement as well.
Okay.
So that led to some unexpected funds in the transportation fund that had been used previously to do the constructions.
Okay.
They're just very slow and they
Yeah, in 5 years then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but they want their money now,
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah, and if you notice, the invoice is dated in February, so we didn't ever get their invoice, so we finally got it. When I got my last reimbursement check, we send those through the local district office in Schaumburg. I said, the village owes you money. How can I get that final bill? And they're like, oh, we just reimbursed you. I'm like, no, we owe you money. They're like, oh, that's not our department. So we had to wait for it to come from Springfield.
Okay.
Any other questions? I will entertain a motion to approve the regular accounts payable in the amount of $388,859.56 to be paid on or before May 10, 2020.
So moved.
First and a second, questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-1 absent.
Okay, now we turn to Trustee Kelly for his long-awaited Business Development Commission report.
BBC is scheduled to meet next Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month. If that does change, you will be notified. It may be delayed 1 week, but as of right now, it's still as scheduled until the chairman makes a call. And the only other thing I have to report is hopefully you've seen all of the great work being done at Gardenberry. They've really made some good progress there, and I would assume within the next 2 weeks or so, it should be
I think it'll be finished by the middle of next week,
Okay. And that includes the top of the building.
right, on the western portion. The west facing facade they haven't started on that yet. That's where they'll do the historic.
Right, that's what I mean. So all of that will be done by the middle of next
And
week.
by the way, Mr. Wellwell called just today, he was so thrilled with the progress of just what
Yeah,
the
making
coordinator
good
is
progress.
going very well. The window treatments have all been added. That wasn't even included in the original grant.
Trustee Coates?
I have none of the street report you guys got in your packet.
Trustee Palastrellini?
No report.
No, anybody want to take PR? Anybody want to take a swing at it?
Not today.
Sure.
Well, since he's here, just a continual thank you for writing the newsletters.
Yeah.
It's always-
Thank you for your support.
So if the planning and zoning volunteerism wasn't enough, Mr. Rossetti is also the author and creator of the newsletters that the village gets in the
All I do is put the pieces together.
in the water bill. Thank you
Making it
very much.
fit.
He also did paint a fire hydrant, so probably more than once.
I pay an
I don't know if that has to do with PR. but-
Not just,
No, I'm just, he volunteered to paint a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Legally.
we paint every fire hydrant, with any of our colors.
Hey, you got spare time, it seems. Okay, so I've never done this, Ms. Clerk, so you're gonna have to help me through this. Do I bang the gavel or what?
You're adjourned.
Do I have to ask for roll call?
You're adjourned.
Do I have to ask permission or how does this work? I've never done this.
Make a motion.
Okay, so I make a motion to adjourn Sindai.
So, second.
All right. Oh, we're all here.
Yeah,
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Opposed? No? Okay. So now we are adjourned Sindai. So for those of you in the audience, tonight we swear in the trustees that just won their reelection. Tonight we have trustee Coates, trustee Kelly, and trustee Robinson that will get sworn in. And it'll be our clerks last swearing in. Don't hold it back. Hold it back.
Okay, Coach.
And a couple margaritas tonight.
Yeah.
Are you gonna stand up or are you just gonna do it in your chair?
What do you want us to do?
No, I'm asking, oh,
You have to come forward.
All of you at the same time.
all of you guys.
Yeah, at the same time.
Wait, same time.
Girls, Mo and Larry, come on.
I thought it was individually.
No.
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 Individual.
No.
Mine will look like.
No.
All right, we're gonna raise my right hand. My right, you're right.
Oh my goodness.
We're doing all the same time.
Yeah, you can do all the same time.
Swear.
All three of you right here. You three.
Ready.
I'll go slow.
Good.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge
faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of trustee
the duties of office of trustee
of the village of Hampshire, Illinois,
of the village of Hampshire, Illinois,
according to the best of my ability.
for the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
You guys
All right, now you can't, it's not official yet, because you guys have signed paper.
Welcome back. It's been 30 seconds.
Congratulations on your guys' reelection. We look forward to serving with you for another 2 years. Well, you guys did 4. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Blair.
You did very well.
It's almost like you've done this before.
Yeah. There you go, Bill.
I was worried. It's gonna, everyone fumbles the word, so it's just. We're gonna take each. Yeah, three fumble.
You guys didn't get it over with.
All right, Ms. Clerk, call the roll, please. And thank you. Oh, I gotta bang it.
Ms. Fodor? Here. Mr. Kelly?
Here, say here, here.
Roll call here. Ceremonial.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Mark?
Here.
Ms. Palastrellini?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
All here, one missing.
The new board is now in session. All right, so the first thing on our agenda is committee assignments. And so the only one that I have so far, been a little preoccupied the last couple of weeks. I apologize for that. Is the appointment of trustee Aaron Kelly to the Business Development Commission. He's done outstanding work, working alongside the PDC and has agreed to continue to serve. So with that, I will ask for a motion to appoint trustee Aaron Kelly to the Business Development Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Third.
Now, the only question I have is that here it says consistent with his term as trustee. This one out goes the mayor, right? Because it's a commission, right? Just like county zoning. Right, okay. So you get it even after I'm gone. Just saying. All right, good. Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kelly?
Abstain.
Mr. Coast?
Aye.
Mr. Mark?
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 abstain, 1 absent.
I'm voting for myself.
We're laughing.
You don't support yourself.
I understand. You guys start laughing.
No, we're laughing because he said after I'm gone, he's presuming that he'll be gone in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
They were just talking about impeaching. So
2 years, 2 minutes.
All right, any new business? I have an announcement, but, no, go ahead, you.
I just had, at the last Lions Club meeting, they brought up the subject that, they had offered to put something in towards the street facade. At the end of it, we said we'd look at that. Is this made any?
Actually, yes, we have a list of about 6 items now that can either be donated or we're gonna be applying for a grant. So do they have an idea how much they'd like to spend? All right, I can talk
Not
about
at this point.
You said they'd like to make a donation, so yes, we do have some ideas and I'll share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Later. Go on.
Yeah, we will.
15,
Since they didn't give us a number, we'll go on.
$30,000.
Yeah, the lights are $30,000. That's the first place we'll go.
Penny can.
I really want lights, just saying, I really want lights.
I do have one thing, just an ask of either staff or the board. Historically, the VFW that was in town has been responsible for the Memorial Day ceremonies and remembrances up at the memorial in the park over at Silent Park. And I know the VFW no longer exists within Hampshire. Its time ended. And so the ask would be, can we as a village get involved, find out, is there somebody already working on this, whether it's American Legion? And if not, is it something we can take on the reins? Because I feel like there still should be.
Jody always handles that, doesn't she?
Yeah, but there's a gentleman by the name of Randy Way that reached out this week. I have his phone number. I know that he's got a group of people that are interested in doing something. I don't know what that is, but if you're.
Well, I'd like the village to be, like to offer services and be involved as
The
well.
park district also has a girl that is in charge of the entire upkeep and maintenance of them.
Okay. Yeah, so how are we, I don't know if that's, Ms. Vasquez, for like the committee that you bring together of cross-functional organizations that you can bring together for this, but I would just hate to see us not have some type of very nice ceremony up there from Memorial Day.
What does Jody do, Mike?
Everything.
That's what I mean. So
She's a veteran.
I know she is, but she
She's
managed.
township supervisor, No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I can tell.
So, no, she was involved with the VFW.
She was
involved with the VFW and that she was one of the,
So
She was
she
an
goes
officer
away
with the VFW.
but I know that she's still pretty involved with the veterans, like in town and stuff like that, but.
There was somebody that always used to contact me too, because in case of inclement weather, when they had the parade or the ceremony piece, they would have it, we would coordinate with the middle school and have it there. So do you remember who that was?
No, but
I might be able to figure that out.
But I wonder who put the signs up too. Somebody was putting signs
Yes.
down the streets.
well, that was Jody last year and the years prior.
Yeah.
Because we helped her obtain stands and stuff.
Oh,
I just bring this up to say we've
If
got
you'll give us the
a
name.
little less than a month, and whatever we can do as a village to help and.
There's currently no flag there. They're able to retrieve it.
If you'll give us the name, I'll reach out to Jody and that person. We'll make sure we get.
Anything, if trustees can be involved to support as well, or the village president, just let us know.
We'll jump on.
Thank you.
Sure.
This afternoon I was over at the area where the Coon Creek Fest is held. And I see they put the top in there and all the cars run it, and that's fine. Just walking around, noticed that around the edges of it, and I don't know whether it's totally finished rolling or whatever, but people, if it's left like that around the edges, people it could be a safety issue, with people falling over because it's not rolled down flat. There's big chunks there, whatever it is.
You mean dirt rolling off the hill?
No, he's
No,
talking
no,
about the
I'm
asphalt.
talking the gravel, where they put the stone area for the cars to park on.
There's a new parking lot off of Town Hall Place, so the James Motors now has all their cars in that parking lot, a temporary parking lot. We used the crushed aggregate from Centennial
When did they put that in?
just last week.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, when the cars are not there and people are gonna be able to walk backwards and forwards through there, looked a little like it could be a problem. if
We
it's
can roll it
not
again.
down.
Frankly, that's not really designed for pedestrian
Yeah.
traffic. They shouldn't be walking through there. They shouldn't be walking through the whole property.
Well, during the fest, I'm talking about.
Right. We'll make sure it's level.
Okay, I was just asked to bring that to the attention.
As they continue to park there every day, that'll continue to roll it and crush it. And at some point, we could put some topper over it. But right now, we prefer not to do that.
So is that their land then, or?
No, it's our land and I'll be bringing this back to the board for lease. We're gonna lease it to James Motors for some period of time, consistent with Coon Creek. We just needed to get their cars off the lot. They had no place to do it, so I worked out that arrangement with James Motors.
And the parking lot material came from Centennial. It was, so it wasn't, there
Didn't
was a
cost
whole
us
lot of.
anything to do it. Our own people put it down and rolled it.
It was just, and it was consequently, it was one of these things that as soon as they put the parking lot down, the utility company came in and said, hey, James, you gotta get your cars parked, get off of the street because utilities are coming down this road. So.
And we were continuing to have issues with the parking lot back here, so it's a good arrangement. It's worked out really well.
There will be an agreement formally in front of the board here very shortly, and it'll be concurrent with Coon Creek.
Right.
Because the agreements need to interact, because there are things with, the cars being there that they need to be gone and how long they need to be gone and that kind of stuff.
Carl's aware of it. He's seen the parking lot. He's okay.
Carl was involved with the placement, was he not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl was with me today. It's looking good with the removal of the hill, and it's opened up a lot more area there that will help with the layout of the fest, and picked up quite a bit of ground there that would be very usable for the fest.
I have just a thing just to mention. I really like this land use opinion that Mr. Tinajero had brought, in taking a look at the property and all the information that came in here. And it appears it's a Kane DuPage Soil and Water Conservation District opinion. And is that, I've never seen one. And so is that something that's required?
Yes, in fact, excuse me, I emailed the entire board, all three of the one for the light properties just last week. So I find those very useful too.
Yeah.
And it gives a very good opinion on 26 different items. I think. So yes, we get one of those in every report, and you have them for the light properties.
Okay, we have it from. The other just point, because we are looking at hearings coming up, is if someone could just clarify the annexation process itself. What is required of it?
Happens to be right behind our attorney.
Please, like the public notice, the publication, the draft agreement. How does that go? What's required of each
It's a
person?
very broad question.
Isn't it right there?
So I think
It's right there?
Yeah, this question has been brought up multiple times.
Okay.
So we actually met trustee Fodor, myself, met with a group of people, residents, last evening, and we kind of sketched it out. And so, so for the board, we've got multiple FOIA requests over the light property. One of the FOIA requests was for the annexation agreement. We got an opinion of the attorneys that draft or working documents are not something that typically would be subject to FOIA because they're not finished or something that have been presented. In the spirits of transparency, we decided that we issue the annexation agreement. That has caused some confusion amongst residents in the process because typically you have your what we've done, you have that state mandated process, right, which we've done. And then the village now, we have them come talk to the board first, right, to get the word out. So that the first time that the board is hearing about a project, it's not already through committee, if you will, right? So we've added that additional step. And so the annexation agreement is a working document until such time that it becomes, until we set the date for the public hearing where it comes to the village board. The Planning and Zoning Commission members don't see the annexation agreement in its working form. The only ones that see a draft document, if you will, is the village board after the entire process. And so by that is, so up here, we've got it listed out. Thanks to trustee Fodor, who's not here, because we were trying to figure it out, try to write it out so that it makes sense. So initially, so our process is that that the village board has the initial presentation, then it gets presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Then there's a date set for the public hearing for the project and its merits. And the Planning and Zoning Commission votes to either recommend or not recommend. Okay, and then it goes to the village board public hearing. Okay, and I'll get to public input in a minute. And then the village board vote finally on the project and the annexation agreement. So if you remember, like with Crown, we didn't see the development agreement or annexation agreement or anything till the very last step of the process, okay?
Okay,
And the reason for that is there, you see the big carrots there, all of those steps are what make up the annexation agreement and changes to the annexation agreement. There's 1,000 changes that will go into that annexation agreement over a project's lifespan. And it's all dictated by changes from the staff that they put into it. It's dictated by the staff, or the changes that come from the commission based on public comment, things we'd like to see and that kind of thing. And so the annexation agreement keeps getting called into question. How come we can't see it? How come we can't see it? And it's not that it's the village's, you know, we shared it again as a working document. But there's the form that's out there now isn't the most current, but I would suspect that after the meeting on May 8th, that the annexation agreement will change. And then after the public hearing is finally set, then the annexation agreement will change again. And then, you know what I'm saying? So it's a working fluid document made up of all of the changes presented in the process.
so just for clarification then, as those changes are made, anybody's FOIA's it is what it is on that day that they requested. So one person may have that and someone may have gotten it the week before, and then, so it's kind of gonna cause confusion with the public because we could have 10 different versions out there. And the only one that's the most current is the one that's enacting.
Correct. And the only one that really quote unquote matters is the one that's presented to the village board prior to our public hearing, which is like one of the last steps.
Okay,
Because up until that point, the annexation agreement is going to change 1,000 times.
okay. Where does the notification go? I mean, when it's required to notify those parcels that are within so many feet? So 2 week, okay, 2 week notice then to those properties
15
within
days.
so many feet.
15
Okay,
days, correct?
Prior to.
and that's prior to public.
And that is, I just want, I don't mean to correct you,
No,
but
no,
it's not 2 weeks, it's not 14 days, it's 15.
Well, they're confused now.
So that, but that says 2 weeks.
Well, we were sketching,
Okay,
okay?
but it is 15
15
days prior to the public hearing. Planning zone.
The sign needs to go up on the property and properties that either abut or within 250 feet
Okay.
need to be notified.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
You did a great job.
All right.
And then notification in the newspaper then before the first public hearing and P and Z, and then before the hearing for us.
Yeah, anytime that there's any type of public hearing, you can bet it's got to go into the newspaper.
Okay, okay. I just want to clarify, 'cause, yeah, there's a lot of confusion.
Now, that said, though, the village board hearing and the village board vote can take place at the same.
Correct.
And usually, I think.
Yeah.
technically,
Yes, yeah, the hearing.
You'll have the hearing and then you close out of the hearing and then you go into
Yeah.
consideration.
And as long as there's notice set in the paper for the hearing, we can continue. All right, thank you.
Did that answer?
Absolutely did, and I wasn't looking above his head to see that, so.
No, there was talk when I was in here this morning, should we erase that or not? I said, you know, we'll leave it up because I'm sure that that's going to come up.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
then there are,
Yeah,
there are
okay.
things in each of those steps, like the public hearing, planning and zoning, board hearing. You have to provide accommodations for anybody and everybody that wants to be able to speak on it.
Mhm.
The capacity to speak, which is why often it's moved to a larger facility, because you can't restrict the public from giving feedback or speaking.
So this is another thing. So we talked last evening and then this afternoon, Mr. Ray is going to kind of take that, put it on steroids and put it on our website as far as the flow chart.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh,
So that this way it's easier to understand. Because and the other thing is if he took a picture of that and posted it, then Heather would need royalties and. The other thing it's important, I do have a couple, well, first of all. You good with that?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
fine. That's
okay.
the only two things I have.
Yeah, you can sit, you'll sit, my chair, yeah. Couple of announcements. I want to just clear up some confusion. The Planning and Zoning Commission will meet on Monday at Hampshire Middle School at 7 o'clock. There will be no action because there is no public hearing. They didn't meet the requirements. There was some issue with paperwork. I'm just going to leave it at that. But the property owner, can't have it. Property owner is going to come in and present to the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's going to be public comment like normal. We've I don't want to say instructed, but heavily advised the property owner that they should make attempts to answer questions that are asked and that kind of thing. So it's just kind of like
it's kind of like the process where they come in and talk to us the first time. They're coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission the first time after this new annexation application. So that's happening on Monday at 8 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. And we've talked with our attorney, and there's precedent for this. The village board can attend if you want. There's a method in which if any of the board is interested in speaking, there's a method in which that can be accomplished through public comment, right? You'd have to sign up and speak under public comment. You can't be formally recognized by the commission in any other form other than a concerned resident. But everybody's welcome to attend, ask questions and that kind of thing. The information that I have as far as the public hearing being scheduled for this project, should it move forward past tomorrow, it would be in the coming month. So that's what I've got.
Why is planning and zoning going through if they're not able to take any action?
They're wanting to hear the project. They're going to hear about the project. They're going to hear about the differences in the annexation agreement. They're going to hear as you know, Life has decided rather than give a 3-minute presentation made up of 3 slides, they commissioned a team of people to come in, and my best way to describe it to this board is I hope that they act like Crown this time around versus Light did the first time around, and do an in-depth presentation, similar to even with the Tina Giro property just now, where they come in with a site plan that actually depicts what they're doing and what their intentions are, and some of the facts of the situation with that kind of stuff. So that's my hope for Monday.
Okay.
And so that's what, but there's going to be no action.
So they're gonna have to have a public hearing and go before planning and zoning again.
Yes. And any cost for this, it's also important to know that any costs having to do with this project are paid for by the developer. Even, so there are attorney's time, our engineer's time, the building rental for Hampshire Middle School, any of that stuff.
You mean by the property owner?
Oh, sorry, yes, property owner. Yes. Again, we typically don't have the property owner doing all this work. Typically, it's a developer, much like the Tina Giro, where he was going to develop property. The only time that's not recoupable, if you will, if that's even a word, is staff time. So all the staff time that we are dedicating to this, whether it be through FOIA request, meeting with concerned residents, that kind of stuff, we cannot build back any of the staff time. I'm just saying that in open session, only for the fact that I know staff has put, and as have elected officials, put a lot of time into this project, meeting with residents and that kind of stuff. And so I think that we're trying to do our best job to make sure the right information's out there. And I think I think we're all doing a good job together. So, any other questions about the light project?
Yeah, just have one, just a off the cuff question.
Sure.
Are they doing this Monday to walk away from that after Monday damage control or what? I mean, I fail to see what's the sense of tying the whole thing up if nothing can be done about it. Are they just doing damage control to see how it's perceived? So when they come back to the planning and zoning, they can fine tune?
Well, I would just say that this is the burden of whether or not the village supports, passes, moves forward is on the property owner, period. And so they want to come before the village planning and zoning commission on turning a new leaf, if you will, and presenting the facts of the situation and try to do a better job than they did last time. And so based on how it goes on Monday is going to dictate whether or not they move forward. That's all I can say. And so, the statement has been made, why is the village moving forward with this? Why is this? Why is that? There's some different opinion, whether or not, we're legally required to hear an annexation agreement or a zoning application. I mean, I compare this to the chickens. Sorry, I do. I didn't want the chickens. The community wanted the chickens. The village board wanted the chickens. It's not my job as mayor to stop things from moving forward. It's just not. I'm not going to do it. So whether we have a legal responsibility to hear an annexation agreement versus hearing a zoning application, I'm not going to be the one to say, nope, I'm not going to move this forward. I think we owe it to the residents' community to let it have its due process.
And personally, I went to the hearing and sat through it, and I think it was the only one you were there.
No, I wasn't.
You were not. Okay, so I think I was the only one that was there. And I went just because I really wanted to hear you know, something, and it hasn't, nothing's come before us at all because it was pulled. But it was really an interesting, it was a very long night, but, you know, it ended at 11 o'clock, but, a lot of the information or questions really kind of came through the public and wasn't an opportunity to hear back from the other side. So I only saw one, but I really encouraged the fellow trustees is, if you do have time, I mean, I just kind of went to the top of the bleachers and sat there all by myself and just kind of incognito listening. And I got a lot out of it, so.
So is there, I mean, the biggest conversation that we always had, Mr. Pacelli, was you have to be careful how an elected official from a board that they make recommendations to.
Right.
Act in a meeting, speak, that kind of thing. Is there any advice that you can give the trustees?
No, you are just there as a resident. And, you're just there as a resident and the board, well, it's subordinate board to this board, but the PZC it's an independent body. So they have to come up with their own decisions, but each one of you live here and each one of you can participate just like anyone else.
I recommend you don't clap. I mean, there's, you know, people yelling and angry and et cetera, and people standing up and, you know, I didn't do that at all. You know, the issue will come before this board and I didn't want to show any impropriety or any favoritism one way or the other, so I just sat there. You know, people might have been wondering why isn't it, you know, I just didn't think it was proper, so.
Is that a recording system?
So because we took the show on the road and it's going to be at Hampshire Middle School, we don't have our recording system and they don't have the infrastructure within the gym space to support it. So what we have done is we've secured a court reporter. There will be a full transcription that the village will pay for. So that while we can't have a video recording of the meetings like we do if they were in this space, we will have a transcription, but it does take time. So it's like 10 or 15 days, right, after the court report, for the court report to come out. And so we'll have that and we'll get a copy of that. So that at least there's a verbatim record, if you will.
But it won't include the, you know, photos of, you know, what's up there on the slides and what's pointed to.
No,
as a-
but staff is always, we've always taken that information and put it out on our website. So I'd imagine that we're gonna do the same thing that we've always done, just like with the Crown Development and the light properties and stuff like that. We always put it on our website. You know, I'm sure that we'll have a spot for the Tina Hero property as well.
It's already out there for all the light properties.
I say that because, you know, when you read the transcript, it'll be that, you know, the witness pointed to the, you know, graph A or whatever it is, so they will identify it, so you just have to look through the pieces then. Okay.
Any other questions about the light property, planning and zoning? Because I have one announcement that I wanted to make, that was it. It's Brian Marock's birthday today, and I told him I was going to embarrass him.
Here.
And he's gone, he can't defend himself. He's the chairman of our planning and zoning commission, and he's a really dedicated guy to this village. I don't know why he continues to serve in the way that he does, but he's doing a fantastic job, and I just want to recognize that it's his birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right. All right, that's it. Motion to adjourn?
So
Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? All right.
Well,